stereo. Whoa. Cutting edges on your stereo, yeah. Mutabaruka leads the way, so just you let the station play, yeah. Say your teaching's got to hold on me, yeah. Well, this is Kimani and you're listening to, Mutabaruka. Reframing, cutting edge. Whoa.
Children that they need nothing exterior to themselves to be happy. No person, place, or thing. And that true happiness is found within. Teach them that they are sufficient unto themselves. Teach them this and you will have taught them grandly. Teach your children that failure is a fiction, that every trying is a success, and that every effort is what achieves the victory. The first no less honorable than the last. Teach them this, and you will have taught them grandly. Teach your children that they are deeply connected to all of life, that they are one with all people, and that they are never separate from God. Teach them this, and you will have taught them grandly. Teach your children that they live in a world of magnificent abundance, that there is enough for everyone, and that it is in sharing the most, not in gathering the most is received. Teach them this, and you will have taught them grandly. Teach your children that there is nothing that they are required to be or to do to be eligible for a life of dignity and fulfillment, that they need not compete with anyone for anything, and that God's blessings are meant for everyone. Teach them this, and you will have taught them grandly.
Teach your children that they will never be judged, that they need not worry about always getting it right, and that they do not have to change anything or get better to be seen as perfect and beautiful in the eyes of God. Teach them this, and you will have taught them grandly. Teach your children that consequences and punishment are not the same thing, that death does not exist, and that God would never condemn anyone. Teach them this, and you will have taught them grandly. Teach your children that there are no conditions to love, that they need not worry about ever losing your love or God's, and that their own love, unconditionally shared, is the greatest gift they can give to the world. Teach them this, and you will have taught them grandly. Teach your children that being special does not mean being better, that claiming superiority over someone is not seeing them for who they really are, and that there is great healing in acknowledging mine is not a better way, mine is merely another way. Teach them this, and you will have taught them grandly. Teach your children that there is nothing they cannot do, that the illusion of ignorance can be eradicated from the earth, and that all anyone really needs is to be given back to themselves by being reminded of who they really are. Teach them this, and you will have taught them grandly. Teach these things not with your words, but with your actions, not with discussion, but with demonstration. For it is not what you do that your children will emulate, but how you are that they will become.
Good night. This is The Cutting Edge on RFM, the second program for the year 2020. The year soon finish. Last week we have a thing on last week on the stepping razor where we are contemplate when the decade start. Some people say this is the first year of the new decade. Some say it's 2021. And we had this long conversation. When them did say the year 2000, remember them did say the year 2000 everything I got crash all electronics and car go drop out of sky. No, sorry, plane go drop out of sky and all something. And people did really get scared. That even Prince, years before, Prince sing a tune say, party till 1999. So the idea was that the year 2000 would have been the end of a million, well, it's 2 millenniums, millennium, them call it, yes, 2,000 years. And then the new millennium would start at 2001. So the idea was from 2001, and you count 10 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It means the millennium, the decade would end 2010. And so forth and so forth. Well, somewhere along the line, many people confuse it and mix it up. Even though them create the whole scenario of the whole thing. And say 2020 is the beginning of the new decade, when really it is the end of the decade, and the new decade start 2021. So you start counting from 2021 to 2030. You're supposed to get 10 years, because them say a decade is 10 years. So you call 2021, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're supposed to get the decade, which is 10 years is a decade. Now, if you check it from the year 2020, and you start counting from 2020, that means it going to go down 20, 30, 31, 2031. That is when it's going down, which is not so it's supposed to go. It's supposed to be from the 0 to the 0. And so it says you start it from the 1 to the 0. That is where it's supposed to go. But as we say, them confuse the thing, because them they don't tell we say the year 2000. The year 2000 is the beginning of a new decade. And people start to check it all sort of way. Confusion in Rome. Confusion in Rome is like how we set the date them. You know, there's certain place that the years start. Well, in the ancient time, them follow the moon, lunar calendar. So you have lunar calendar. And them start the year, the first new moon in spring, which is between March, April, when the new moon come out in where you call spring. So the spring, when it spring up, when everything starts spring up, you call it the beginning of the year. Well, many people start the thing according to different calendars. In Ethiopia, they have a thing in the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar for Julius Caesar. And as we said before, that's how we get July. July was named for Julius Caesar. Septimus. All of these things is Roman thinking, Roman ways of checking time that bring up these things. You know, so we are stuck in the Roman logics. We are stuck in the Roman logics. It is Rome, even the very calendar that we use is a Gregorian calendar from Pope Gregory. So we are stuck in the Roman calendar. We are stuck in the Roman days, months, naming of the days and the months. We're stuck in these things because we're in the Western world. Because the Chinese don't check things like, oh, the Romans check it. The Chinese have them own thing. You understand? Them have them own thing. But we who was taken from Africa and brought to this part of the world is confined in the European logics. So when them say the beginning of the year, we say January the 1st is the beginning of the year. If January the 1st is the beginning of the month, and 10 years make a decade, how the hell you have a decade starting at 0? It's supposed to start at 1 and end at 0. That is how it's supposed to go. And we did have that reason last week. And I was listening to Nick. And when I come in here, my brethren, young, start to decipher it another way. And I'm trying to, I was now between, was I listening to Nick too much? Or was I listening to, I don't know, should I listen to him? But after going round and round and coming round, because that is what it is all about. It's about thinking and using your brains. Because there's nothing that you have that is so close to you than like your brains. Your brains is what move everything. And after moving and going around and thinking, I realized, but it's true. You can't start the decade at 0. You have to start the decade at 1. And end it at 0. That is where it goes. So if you start January the 1st, that is where you must start, January the 1st. If you're looking at now the beginning of the year, who decide that January is the beginning of the year? Just like how we say Sunday is the beginning of the week. And Saturday is the end of the week. And there's certain controversy about which day is the Sabbath, because according to people who follow the Bible, them say on the first day, and on the last day, and the 6th day, God rests. The problem is who decide in those times when was the first day, or who's deciding it no more than the calendar that we use. The calendar say, and we in our consciousness say, the beginning of the week start on Sunday. And the second day is Monday. And it on and on. But 5,000 years ago, make we claim say we are following them I say. 5,000 years ago, there was no January, nor February, nor March, nor April. There was no Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, nor Wednesday. It was from what them call one night to the morning, according to what them say. And the evening and the morning was the first day. Not Monday or Sunday. The evening and the morning, according to what I read. And according to what people claim, them understand it to be. So when a man say him and God say, on the 7th day, you must rest. Who is deciding which day is the 7th day? Than Rome. It's only Rome. It's Rome deciding that. Rome deciding the 7th day is Rome deciding it, because if you look upon it, all of the days that is named, was named based upon some planetary situation or some Greco-Roman understanding of the cosmos. Yes. Some man say, on the seventh day you shall rest. And we calculate the seventh day starting from Sunday, which is the first day, to Saturday, the seventh day. So in our consciousness, that is not of our making, but in our consciousness, we derive that the seventh day is Saturday. And then the Roman Church come and say, I'm going to put the Sunday, which is the Sunday, the sun in the sky. I'm going to say, I'm going to give praises to the sun. I'm going to give praises to the sun. Therefore, Sunday become more important than Saturday. Because him come up now with that thing where say, him going to name the first day of the week after the sun in the sky. So him says Sunday, and him worship the sun. So everything must put to rest on that day and give praises to the sun. The sun is the source of all life on earth. The sun is the source of all life on earth. So him say, all right, let us worship the sun on this day and call it Sunday, which is the first day of the week. But people who follow the Jewish way of thinking, or so they say, the Jewish culture. The Jewish culture is deriving that dear Torah, the Torah says, on the sixth day, God make the earth and him done. And on the seventh day, him rest. So them go back into the Roman calendar. And them go back into all the calendars them that is deciding the seventh day and say, well, Saturday is the seventh day, so we going to rest on the seventh day like how God rests. I'm tired and getting rest now. After I'm done make man, him say, boy, I'm tired, you know. Now put no 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th day. But in the time of what they are speaking about, there was no 7th day, 6th day. It just said the evening and the morning. And if you check the evening and the morning, it's not 7th day, that is hours. If you want to work God into hours. The evening and the morning was the first day. Every time in talk, and say, and the evening and the morning was the second day, and the evening and the morning was the third day. So when you go to bed and when you get up back, a day is supposed to gone. So them have way in a logics that is not fully explained by all people, but it's explained for us by a group of people, especially a group of men. A group of men decide that today is Wednesday, and after 12 is going to be Thursday, and the next day is Friday. So we have to get pay on Friday. Who is deciding that we must get pay on Friday? We're going to work starting from Monday, and we're going to get pay on Friday, and don't go to work neither Saturday nor Sunday. But guess what? All of these things was derived from a religious perspective that is coming from certain cultures. Because it's out of cultures you get religion. Out of cultures you get religion. All religion have a basis in certain culture. It's just that certain people, when they reach a certain thinking, them start to give away them culture and hold on upon the religion. So you have religious people who decide, say, you must work on Saturday. Saturday is the Sabbath day. And you must work on Sunday, because Sunday is the day of the sun. You must go to church. So you are breaking away now. You have people who break away from the Jewish understanding and go to the Roman understanding. But when you get it, the two of them is Roman, because who's deciding Monday is Monday and who's deciding that Tuesday is Tuesday? And what significance or importance that have to the cosmos or to life? What is it? It is man's invention that is deciding these things in order to come to a better understanding of how him should move in our environment, in our space. Because when you check it, the time now in Jamaica is 39 minutes past 10. Some places is already seen bright day. Some people is not in Wednesday now. Some people is in Thursday, long time. Some people gone to bed and wake up already in a certain places. So nature don't wait for no one. Because when you see this moon, you saw some people see the sun over the other side. But you create and we design a time and we put so much energy upon these time that sometimes with dead feet we kill each other for the time. You get fired from your work because of time. And you have to get up a certain time and you have to go to bed a certain time. Because men in them ambition to become who they are not start to formulate and decide how the world must run, and especially if you have power. Because power is who, or power is what is deciding how the thing must go. Whether or not you can decipher it and say, me nah adhere to this. And so it's supposed to go. Because if you go outside of that, you say you're a madman. You're an idiot. Why you going round to that? You have to come here at a specific time. And the time when them say you have to come, them put it down in numbers. Them put it down in numbers because them want it to run according to them in order. And if you don't have these numbers that is guiding you, certain things going to go out of order and create confusion. That is the logics behind doing these things. So you have a stoplight that is deciding for you when you must stop your car and when you must drive your car. The stoplight. So even if you can't read, but you can see, in order for you to drive car, you have to can see. Them going developing car, now you don't have to see. If you enter the car, you just go in the car and sit down and tell the car where you want to go. And the car carry you there without you driving it. That is already designed and ready for the market. Already designed for the market. So when you think, say you can, because you see the red light, you say, "Chum, me not follow that, you know." You're going to just go through. And next man over the other side have a green over there, so. And him say, that him a follow. if that thing say you are think something else. So the logic is that when you're driving, you have to think for the next person. Because you don't know what the next person might do in him reckless and careless movement to say him not following the light we say red. Because the light say red is supposed to keep us in order. And we can rationalize and we can use our brains to decipher these things. But when you get right down to it, the whole of we get caught in an environment and sometimes in a culture that is not conducive to any thinking that we have in our thinking brains. there was a time when we never have no stoplight because I only we never have no car. As a matter of fact, me go in a certain village in Africa and in Australia where the people them have no car. And them are survive. Quite okay, them are survive. There's no stoplight there until them start to go into the big city and get confused. Because them used to just walk. And now them used, so when them reach that specific light, them supposed to wait to go across the street or a big truck will come and lick them. You have people that live for hundreds of years without stoplight. You have people that live for hundreds of years without the logics of a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday we must do this and Sunday we mustn't do that. You have people that live hundreds, thousands of years that don't get up today and say, today is Saturday, we're not going to work, we're going to go praise the Lord. Thousands of years. And they are doing quite fine. Them do have the burden that we have. Because most of these things is burden. And it's bring guilt in your thinking and your consciousness. Yes, you have people where him no want to do nothing past that if him catch you do something, him start to go on like say you is some wicked person. That you are do something past that you're supposed to arrest, you say according to the Bible, you must rest on the 7th day, like your God. And them say, and this day must keep the day holy. Because 6 days I make this heaven and earth, and on the 7th day I rest. So him demand, whosoever him is, him demand that you must keep the Sabbath. And then people come over the years and kill people because them don't keep the Sabbath. Because them say you're going against freedom logics. And him declare say the Sabbath is Saturday. Yet still the thing, the person or the persons who derive that thinking or idea never have no Saturday enough for them calendar. Nor no Sunday, nor no Monday, nor no Tuesday. Him just a work off of the moon and the sun. The same sun when tell you say no worship. It's the same sun him did a work off when him say, all right, I'm going to create an idea that say, you see when I'm working, the place the sun must be shining. But so when I don't see the sun, I must be sleeping. So I'm derive a thing say between the time when him don't see the sun and when him see the sun, him going to work, I'm going to sleep. I have been to places in Europe where there's certain times of the year where them have like 1 hour of night. And sometimes all 1 week, no sun not shine, a pure night. I know some people that's what we talk about. Well, I don't care where you want to believe, go ask somebody. Me I tell you, say, me got a country already where all 5-6 days, and days, you know, see no sunshine. Street light turn on, car light turn on, people are walk up and down in a shops we have, it's light, no night, no day. And then the reversal is also true. That you're going at the same place at certain time of the year, and certain time of the year, it's pure sunshine for days and days and days. You know, see no light, no electricity, not burn or turn. Yeah, man. We see that. We experience that. Go to your bed 10 o'clock in the night and you wake up for go a bathroom, for go back to your bed, and when you look outside, sun a shine bright. And when you look at your clock, it's 12 o'clock. It's a scary thing if you don't use to it. Scary. The last time I go to Finland, it's amazing. The last time I go to Finland, and we do some show we're going to do. The place is bright up, some show we're going to do. We do it at the day. And we go back at the hotel. And when the show done must about 8 o'clock. Or 7 o'clock the show done. And I go back at the hotel now, and I sit down in my hotel room, and look about my food and all them something there. And I say, you know, I go watch some TV, and I draw my curtain at 7 o'clock, you know. So the place start to get dark. And you see, I drop asleep in the bed. And when I go so bam, I want to get up and go to the bathroom. So I get up and go to the bathroom, and I say, I go look out, I want to let people there on the road. Them hours there. Because I expect because the people are going to park. You see me wake up, you see me draw the curtain, the sun has burned me. And when we look, it was about 11 o'clock in the night. Because 7 o'clock me go in. I drop asleep about 8, 9 o'clock. I drop asleep in my room. And when I get up and I look outside, because when me come out the place dark up. Yeah, 7, 8 o'clock, the place dark up. I'm going to the hotel room and do what I do and run around. I mean, look about my food and rare. And by the time me walk back, let the curtain and look out, the sun bright up the place. Me I say, what is? And that between 8, 9, 10, 11, about 3 hours, me in the room. Sun bright up again. So where I say, the idea of time in time is a human construct. It's a human construct. And it is only there because some people have to do certain things and them have to control the time in which them do the thing and control people to do that thing. So we grow up into that understanding and we can't come out of it. We have to go into our next environment. We have to go into our next environment because you have some people who say, what month you belong to? And them say Capricorn. What month you belong to? Pisces. Them say, oh, Pisces is a fish. You're born between March and whatsoever. Capricorn, you're born between December and January. You have calendars that don't have that. You have calendars that don't check it that way. As a matter of fact, when you look at the Chinese calendar, you see rat, dragon, and all these things from them calendar. And they might check it a total different way. And it's for them logics they might use. It's not European logics. Well, so when you're in a European mindset, there's no way you can look on them thing and say it make no sense. Because you're going to say, what them I say? How foolish is that? Me a Capricorn. Me a this, me a that. And you lose the European way of deciding that. And then now you get caught. You get caught because your mind get narrowed down. Your mind get narrowed down. And a whole heap away don't want to open your mind to new thought and new thinking. Because we already think one way and we feel say, we're gone by the morning, can't go good evening. We feel say, boy, right now, we're not think, look here what you want to say to me, Mutabaruka. As some me grow up, as some me think, and that's some me stay. And then you start to use those little ways for press along and for push it from your children and your children. And then you see the same thing keep regurgitating over and over. And then you wonder how the thing can move or can change. This is the... So why we bring up all of them conversations there a while ago? We bring it up because this is a program of thoughts. This is a program where those little idiosyncrasies that we call idiosyncrasies can mean a lot if we can decipher out what we're saying. If we can decipher it, you know, say you're really thinking. You don't have to come to the same conclusion where we come to, which we never really come to no conclusion still. We just assure you, say, this is how the thing is here, and it don't necessarily go on over the same way. So who's deciding how you think and how you think through things? Because really and truly, mathematics solve everything. And if we could have used maths, for deal with what we just say, you'll have realized, just like how we say the decade, it's mathematics, you know. Yeah, when we say start in the decade from 1 to 10, we give you 10, which is that is the decade. Even though we put it in at them level there, we are sure you say you need to think. Because them have you do one thing over there so and the next thing over there so, and you really get caught in between the two things them and don't figure out say, but wait, something wrong. Because you know I think something wrong. So we are say, and we carry through that exercise to make you really look into the thing. Just look, and you may find something that you never know was there. No, most fans now go think about what we just say, because them say the decade start this year. That's that. You see, it take reasoning. That is how people come to understanding and go to clear understanding, by reasoning it and say, you weigh the thing. Like last week, how we reason out it and realize there's something wrong. And we say, yeah, most people going to say that we are in a new decade. You know, because this is 2020, them say it's a new decade. But the logics, if you really follow the logics, it is not the new decade yet until next year. It's mathematics show you that. Yes, mathematics show you that. If you start, if 2000 is the end, and you're starting over, forget 2000, the first decade. You have to start it at 1. Yeah. Anyway, this is the cutting edge. We're going to have a reasoning, you know, that, well, if you don't know, the Mighty Diamonds, 50 odd years and counting of this group together, one of the sweetest harmony group that still exists in the music. Because you don't hear no group in the music again. You know, you don't hear no harmony and no, you know, them there, you don't hear them think they're in a Jamaican music again. You know, it's a different era now. We have to just face that, you understand? But you have groups who are still there. The meditation, the Diamonds. I can name quite a few of them. But we want it. I can see if she's there. Masani.
Yes, greetings.
Oh, you're there. All right. Give thanks. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Okay. I just want to talk about how you have groups where maintain harmony, because you don't have that reggae music again, Jamaican music. You know, but you have certain ones who maintain that over the years and still maintain it to the point of still a tour after 50 years, and one such group is the Diamonds. And you seem to be involved in something where we want to tell the people about.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned about groups and harmony and things like that. Give thanks for for taking my call and being a part of what we're doing. As ones know, Mighty Diamonds have been around for 50 years. And this is our third time working with Mighty Diamonds at Rastafest. And I must say that there's a pleasure working with a group like the Mighty Diamonds. And why we're doing this, we mean Masonic production, is we want to, well, for Rastafarians, we have always have, artists like Mighty Diamonds, foundation artists. And you're right, the music has changed tremendously. People not singing like they used to anymore. People not, the message is not the same like it used to anymore. So we're celebrating Mighty Diamond's 50th anniversary, and it's not just Jamaica, it's right across Canada. But we're going to start with Jamaica. And the first one we have is January 26th. And this is Irish Rasta Village. They have the last Sunday of every month. They have their event. And it's a pleasure to work with Rasta Village, I must say, because at Rasta Fest, Masonic production, we've always wanted to work with Rastafari.
What that? Yeah. Masani? Yeah. Masani? I'm afraid I see if you can't get her back there. See if you can get her back. I don't know what I go on and so. I'm going to see if you can get her back.
Remember when the round shit man say, time I go train, yeah. Every gully I go run there. Even man
I want if I tape them, do not tape it on the tape. Come on.
I'm so free over my day and praise.
Masani.
Yes, what happened?
I don't know it's what going. It's what going so.
We don't know what was. We don't know. After that, get it to the little thing, where the tie was.
Well, I think I tape the thing and something go wrong over there.
No, not a thing that go on wrong.
Well,
from my end anyway. Ever since from your end.
Mommy never play nothing.
Anyway.
Yeah, so you know say about working with the diamonds.
Yes, okay, so we work with the diamonds, throughout the years at Rasta Fest. I think the first year, I think was 2012. Then last year, we had Mighty Diamonds and Johnny Clark, right? Because we always go with foundation artists at Rasta Fest. This year, our 27th anniversary doing Rasta Fest in Canada. So in me working with them last year and in discussing with them about their 50th anniversary, we decided we want to continue the journey with them. And the journey kicks off January 26th at Rastafari Indigenous Village, right? As I said, we have always wanted to work with Rasta Indigenous Village.
That's in Montego Bay.
Mm-hmm. In Montego Bay.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Rasta Village is Montego Bay. First man, Arlene, and, a lot of brethren and sisters in a part of that, right? So the daytime, though, we have a football tournament at Rasta Village, January 26th. So we have a Rasta team from Kingston playing a Rasta team in Montego Bay in the daytime at Rasta Village. And after the tournament, we have the Mighty Diamonds performing at the village, right? And then there's a lot of activities happening at the village, though, relaxing steam and kinetic yoga, and there's drum circle workshops with master drummers, and there's taino plant medicine face bar by ionized skin food, blaze and paint with Ingrid Coke, right? So, and then there's, of course, for the children, have drum class and these things. So it's a nice event for people in Montego Bay and beyond Montego Bay to come out on January 26th for this nice event, Rasta football tournament and activities. Pre-sold is 3,000, at the gate is 3,005. That includes lunch. So for Iris, they can contact Iris JA at Instagram as well as Iris J and Facebook. The info line on that one is 876-285-4750. And tickets, of course, are still at Fontana Pharmacy. That's for the Montego Bay leg, though. Then we move now to Negril, Muta. And then in Negril now we're at Roots Bamboo, Mighty Diamonds, Ampulu, Horace Martin, Moish, Not a Problem, a whole bunch of artists that we're working with, you know. And then with Roots Bamboo, now there's no football tournament though, Muta. So, you know, Roots Bamboo is a street concert with the Mighty Diamonds as headliner and the rest of the artists. But then now, after Roots Bamboo on the 29th, then we're in Kingston now for House of Dread. Now, I must say though, Muta, that House of Dread has been around for over 50, 60 years. Masonic Production, Rastafist, we have been working with House of Dread for the past 25 years. It's our third event we're doing with them. And we're looking forward to this event as well. Because again, it's a football tournament.
Hold on, Masani. House of Dread is down Dina Road. You have to tell the people, because all the people don't know it's House of Dread there.
Okay, House of Dread is in Vineyard Town.
Yeah, Dina Road to be exact.
Dina Road.
Yeah, beside Country Farm House. Beside Country Farm House.
Between Franklinton, Vineyard Town, I think Almonton are close.
Yeah, a good landmark is Country Farm House.
You understand? So for those who are familiar with House, you have to be familiar with House of Dread.
No, but when I say you have a whole heap of ones, don't know which part House of Dread there. I mean, I'll tell you, say, one of the mark in for finding it is Country Farm House.
Yes.
Because most people know Country Farm House. You know, most Rasta might know House of Dread, but the people them in general might not know, say, House of Dread, they're round the other side of Country Farm House there, you know. So that's why I might say a landmark might be good to give them, say, is near Country Farm House, you understand?
Yes, that's top side Country Farm House. And yes, you're right. A lot of ones are more familiar with Country Farm House. However, if it's a House of Dread doing a House of Dread, the whole world know about House of Dread because we're the football.
No, the nowadays people, the nowadays people there, hold on, man, the nowadays people, you're old man and me a old man, you know. The nowadays people, them don't know.
You're old man,
yeah, but when I say the youth, them nowadays, we have follow the music, don't know House of Dread. House of Dread are our days. When I say them know Country Farm House more than how them know House of Dread.
You're totally correct.
You sound like you know what I call Country Farm House name, you know. Watch it, you know.
Yeah, listen to me. They know here, nobody will not mix up and blend up now, you know. Country Farm of a brethren, them same.
Yeah, but you tell me, say, everybody know House of Dread.
The football team I come from Country Farm, you know. The football team I go to Montego Bay.
Yeah.
This is not come from the Country Farm, you know.
Okay. All right, so you said, when the show in the House of Dread, when that show they keep?
February 1st. So we kick off Reggae Month.
Oh, that's just a couple more weeks' time.
Same thing. So we have football tournament from 9 to 5 and concert is 7 o'clock. Mighty Diamonds, Not a Problem, Aisha Bell, Sampolo, Moish, and Horace Martin.
Okay.
The special show this is the fundraiser for House of Dread. So the part proceeds from the February 1st show go to House of Dread development. So we're setting up, skill training centers, lots of program. And I must say, though, that House of Dread has been on for over 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
Providing ITAL food for the community.
Yeah.
And nobody have ever been turned back. But if you can go there without money, you get a plate ITAL food.
No, man, you tell the people them that I make them flood the bridge in them place. What way I say about sorry about you can't go there without money.
If they can't afford it.
No, but you can't tell the people about you can't go there without. You know, Jamaican people say, what? The rest of them are giving food. Round the cock.
All right. So here it is. It's only $500 for the House of Dread show, you know. So therefore, I think everyone can afford a $500.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable?
Oh, you mean if it sound reasonable, it sound like you,
I give it that. But you see, we want the place to ram up, We want all three shows ram up, Rasta Village, we need for ram. It's only 400 tickets. They might sell a Rasta Village, Only 400 tickets and sell a Roots Bamboo. And then House of Dread, now you know it's a bigger venue, so that's about 3,000 people.
Yeah.
So we want all three shows ram up,
Yeah, well, you have to advertise it properly. For to get it ram, you have to advertise it properly.
Well,
this is just one way to do it.
Show.
Yeah, but this is just one way to do it. You have whole heap other ways to advertise it,
Let's have one way still. I mean, what better way to start off with Mighty Diamonds?
Yeah.
The anniversary.
Yeah.
But I want to say something though, Musa. After the Jamaica shows, you know, the celebration don't stop there, you know, because we're carrying Mighty Diamonds across Canada.
Okay.
You know, 7 cities starting August 1st.
Oh, yeah?
August 1st, August 1st, Emancipation Day in Edmonton. August 2nd, we're in Calgary. August 8th, we're in Vancouver.
Yeah.
August 14th, we're in Niagara Falls. August 15th, Toronto. And then the following week, we're in Ottawa and Montreal. Mighty Diamonds all the way. 70 countries, Rastafest Canada, celebrating 50th anniversary.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm going to carry a Rasta team to Canada.
That sounds good. That sounds good. All right.
Yeah,
well,
so we're looking for the support
Yes.
from everyone to come and support the shows. For those in Montego Bay,
when you say the one House of Dread again, remind me. Remind me. You hear something there again? Yeah. You hear something there again, you know? She gone. And I like remember when she said, I think at the second she said of February.
Nah, I never hear Calgary yet, chip out, you know.
Yeah, the something now come back again, you know. We better done before the something come back. When you say the one at House of Dread again?
February 1st, House of Dread.
Oh, February 1st, okay.
We're kicking our reggae month, February 1st.
All right.
9 to 5 football tournament at the night time, the concert is Mighty Time. I Love It is playing the music. I can't forget I Love It.
All right.
Playing the music for February 1st.
All right. Well, give thanks, sister. Give thanks.
Yeah, all right. Give thanks to the call.
Yeah, man, Irie. Yes, my son, sister who has been keeping Rastafest for years in Canada and works out a year. She mentioned the House of Dread. I work with House of Dread. Mighty Diamond celebrating over 50 years in the music. Yes, big group. Big group. They had advertisement. They had advertisement on the family board time, you know. I'm getting a call right now. I think so she not going to take the call, man. I think she was going to take the call. But she never take the call at all. Okay, so which part of the program we reached now? We reached the part of the program where we should have do Jamaica roots and culture. But we have played the Mighty Diamonds a while ago. We want to play another Mighty Diamonds, you know. This is a Mutabaruka production. Yeah, we're going to play this one now. We produce. Years ago we produced this to carry Mighty Diamonds out of the studio. Here we go. We are doing things that we're not supposed to do. Suffer the whole life through. And we still do it even though we know it's not we. And most of the things them that we are doing is not we. You understand? That's why we keep talking about that the devil make me do it, that the devil do it, and the devil that. It's not we. We get stripped off whole thing, everything we get stripped off. Yeah, then wash all our brain. And then wash your brain and bleach it out. So now it's like our brains that's whiter than snow. So we go to church and sing that too. Lord, wash me and make me whiter than snow. Because our brains actually get washed and then wash it with bleach. Wow. Roots and culture. Here we go.
Hi there, I'm Pat Clark. Welcome to Jamaican Roots and Culture. The name Jamaica is...
All right, make us stop it. Make us stop it and start it over. Here we go now.
Hi there, I'm Pat Clark. Welcome to Jamaican Roots and Culture. The name Jamaica is from Arawak or Taino origin and means land of wood and water. For there to be so much wood on the island that it played a part in the naming of the country, it means that the forest or tree coverage must have been significant in the time of the Tainos. Much has changed since then. Some of our rivers are drying up and a lot of trees have been cut down and not been replanted. The United Nations has declared 2020 as the year of plant health. Plants make up 80% of the foods we eat and produce 98% of the oxygen we breathe. In this program, we'll look at Jamaica's forestry reserves and how we can improve the health of our forest coverage in Jamaica. Forests and other woodlands cover approximately 45% of the country, mostly areas of rugged terrain such as the Blue Mountains and the Cockpit Country, and the dry hilly uplands of poor soils in the southern, western and northwestern parts of Jamaica. Few large areas of virgin forest exist in Jamaica, and most of the forests or other woodlands are comprised of reunate or second growth forestry. There are 5 main types of forests in Jamaica: the limestone forests of the John Crow Mountains and central and western Jamaica, the predominantly shale forests of the Blue Mountains and Port Royal Mountains, the alluvial and wetland forests of the coastal plains, dry limestone forests in the southern parts of Jamaica, and the anthropogenic forests, meaning forest lands which have been altered by the action of man. From a commercial utilization standpoint, the forest area is divided into 3 major types: natural forest growth, which accounts for 29%, second growth forests, 63%, and plantations, 8%. Commercial forestry is supported only by the natural forest and the plantations, which consist of mostly Caribbean pine. Much of the forest land is on steep or rugged terrain with little access. Because of inaccessibility, only about 26% of the natural forest can contribute to sustained timber production. The prospects for industrial uses of domestic timber for major forest products are minimal. However, the use of mangroves and other species from the high forest for fuel wood and charcoal manufacture has been of considerable effect environmentally, particularly as it relates to the watershed degradation. The possibility for further development exists if some areas of reforested land are converted to the production of fuel wood on a commercial basis, as research by the Forest Department has shown. Of necessity, Jamaican forests are multiple-use forests, and being so, employment and revenue from the forest is important to the national economy. The current thrust of the government is for not only timber trees but fruit trees and other orchard crops to be planted within the forests. Of the 26 identified watershed management units, 19 have been declared critical. That is, they have been determined to be very degraded and in need of remedial work to return to an acceptable state of health. Land that should have remained under forest cover has been cleared for other uses, for example, coffee production, that are not compatible with soil and water conservation. Furthermore, the forest cover has been under serious pressure for the production of yam sticks, charcoal, resort and residential development, timber extraction, grazing and cropping. One of the most serious aspects of deforestation is the clearing of steep, unstable slopes for cultivation. This is more so particularly when slash and burn methods are employed, as they sometimes lead to destructive forest fires. The lack of soil and water conservation measures have led to high rates of soil erosion, loss of nutrients, and reduction of water retention capacity in watersheds. Improper road construction and logging operations, both legal and illegal, in pine plantations have also contributed to the problem. Over the last 40 years, successive governments have tried to address unacceptable levels of soil erosion and degradation of watersheds caused primarily by the activities of hillside farmers. The approach to solving the problem has been dominated by physical soil conservation methods designed to allow the farmers to continue to produce annual crops, but with reduced erosion. Despite a number of programs and the expenditure of substantial financial resources, primarily through direct farmer subsidies, little success has been achieved. There is, however, considerable scope for the expansion of agroforestry among hillside farmers, since these practices could reduce the rate of erosion and increase overall productivity through the intercropping of agricultural crops and woody perennials on the same holding. Jamaica is targeting the planting of 3 million timber and ornamental trees over the next 3 years under a national tree planting program. It's very important for us to plant trees for the future sustenance of Jamaica, land we love. And now to end the Jamaica Roots and Culture, here are some words of wisdom from a Jamaican proverb. Small axe fall big tree, small axe falls a big tree. This means the mighty can be taken down by seemingly small things or events. Small axe fall big tree. For Jamaican Roots and Culture, I'm Pat Clark.
Yes, Pat Clark, that was some serious information. Yeah, the government said they're going to plant 3 million trees. How much tree you plant? You ever planted? You know, I say how people I sell ackee. Every time I see somebody I sell ackee on the road, you know, I say, tell me something, you ever plant an ackee tree yet? Everybody when I say that to, none of them ever plant one yet. And so much ackee about the place. I mean, I've never seen ackee bear right through the year yet, and I say ackee bear right through the year. But it's very important that you plant a tree, you know. Me actually support that. You can't just eat it. So what happen now? We look more when all of them children they laugh, no nobody no plant no more. What happen? Plant a tree, man. Plant a tree. You can't just live so. Plant a tree somewhere. If you even get involved in the planting tree, you find them will find piece of land here for plant a tree now. Plant a tree, very important. Yes, we're going to play this brand new tune by a virgin name, Mr. P. Here we go. Yakura coming through talking about the vital food. This is the Cutting Edge on RFM. You know, say, little after 12, when we play the anthem, we're going to carry you back in the archives, Cutting Edge archives, and bring to you one of them tape where we play for years ago. I think we played about 2-3 times already. But we know, say, we have new listeners, you know, we have ones who always want to hear something we play already, again, that it can really resonate in them consciousness. You know, so we're going to go into the archives and bring to you the real Eve. The real Eve. And don't make the name Eve make you feel like it's a biblical thing they matter about. No, it is something that is scientific. Scientific. The first woman. So we want you to really, we can't say put your tape on cock again because tape not about the place, but we know say it will be on the YouTube where you can listen again and listen. We want you to all the people them who catch the Cutting Edge on YouTube, you know. Yes, may I tell you, man, everywhere, all over the place. And I see people now, what them call it, repost. A repost, enough of them. That is good. That is very, very, very good. We love that. That means some people really are like tune in when them can't sit up them hours a night. I would still, you have thousands of people who sit down with you at night time and listen to it, especially them doing in England. But I mean, I tell you, England people, trust me, man. So we want to play the real Eve, and we hope that your majesty can hold up your eye or go drink some, put on some tea or while you up all of the security guard them, who turn up them really loud to keep them company. And the dressmaker them, and the carpenter man them, and the taxi man them, who don't drive so terribly in the night. And that we know this is not drive so terribly in the night, but why you up all the taxi man them, who listen to the Cutting Edge religiously? Yes, can tell you everything what you say the next day. Trust me. And some of them all attack like a them attack what them are saying, you know, to people. And them say, people say to them, yeah man, I'm out here with them foolishness. Sir. I'm out here with them foolishness, you know. And arguments start. And that is good. People talk about what we talk about and try to figure it out. Some people say foolishness. Some people say, yeah, but you never did listen. Some people say, all right, check this out. And some people say, all right, that kind of sounds sensible still, but I know some may grow up to know it. Some may not accept what you say. People afraid of that, you know. People afraid of anything will challenge them belief system. Yes. And your belief system need to be challenged. You have to go, what you believe, you have to check out and even doubt it too. Some people afraid of doubt. We always tell us that doubt is the first stage of reasoning and coming to a fuller understanding of what you doubt. Doubt is not a bad thing. Doubt is not a bad thing. It allows you to dig deep. Yes, it allows you to go in a different sphere of, you know, your head cup and draw out where you never draw out or where you never even know they're there. So don't be scared of doubting, man. You know, you have to doubt because through that make you really do research. And it's all about going into yourself and going into what has been there that you have, you know, say, me mention some book to a man and he must say, never hear about them people there yet. And the man is as claim say him is black this and black that, you know, I'm saying never hear about them something there yet. All them knows the Bible. We are tell you. So we are telling you, you say all them know the Bible, you know, because some get a black history. Look here, man. You see the way them call the Old Testament or the so-called Torah, it's a peripheral African history, African mythology that is written there. Africa is a large continent, and the people them who write that, some of them never have experienced it yet. Them actually writing about African people. Them writing about African people, and we reading it, trying to make sense of certain things. Don't realize 5,000 years ago, some people that had tried the earth and had tried to figure out themselves too. Some people that have tried the earth and had tried to figure out themselves. We must get confused in the thing. There's no super being that is writing these things. As a matter of fact, most of the book, and I'm going to say non-apologetically, that Matthew to Revelation was written by white people. It's white people write it. Matthew to Revelation, Paul writing letters to white people. And black people are read it and I go like says him fasten on the people letter and I go like says them it was written to. If you read where it said letters to, it's letters him writing to the churches in Europe and those that are colonized by Rome. We must take it personal. When Paul talking, Paul don't have no authority more than we. And when I say we, I talk about we nowadays who call ourselves artists and philosophers and who's getting inspiration. Even though we're not calling it divine inspiration, but people, sometimes, if you hear some artists, them say, I just tell them this and I just tell them that. It's the same way Paul wants to tell you that too. Paul make it sound like say him have some direct link to some supernatural being that is telling him to write these things. Him come up by his own conviction and writing to the Romans, to the Corinthians, to the Galatians. All of these churches was in Europe. He's trying to move them away from the so-called Jewish tradition, Jewish culture, and creating a different kind of atmosphere and kind of culture based upon how him see it as a Jew who was a Roman citizen. So Paul almost try dash away the old ideas of the Jew and bring up him own little thing. Because most of the New Testament is taken up with what Paul said and not what Jesus said. And we have to really figure that out. How come this book is about a man who is supposed to be the savior of the earth, and for him, what him say, can't even hold in a one of the book them. It is so small. With him saying in the book, you see Paul have all sort of book I write tonight and I tell people what to do and what not to do. And what to say about, circumcision is this, not that, and you must follow all of these things, and this and that and all these things. And Christian come with this doctrine now. Come with the doctrine and not following the Jewish tradition. Them not following the Jewish tradition. Them following what Paul said. And Paul is a little sellout Jew. Sellout Jew, just like Josephus. All them guys that sell out the Jews, them. So, the book is written about African people, not the New Testament. We are talking about the one where them call the Torah. It is about a group of people in that part of the world. Egypt, Ethiopia, and surrounding areas. But it is not the art of African mythology or art of African history, because we have older than that to lean on. Older than that. We are talking about Ethiopia and Egypt. We have to remember that. This is the cutting edge, as we say. After the anthem, we're going to carry you into the long before Bible, long before Bible, hundreds of years, thousands of years ago. Here we go. The time is 4 minutes past 12
o'clock. We raised our heads and looked at the stars. This new science is a breakthrough. Every one of us can now trace our part in this incredible story. We took samples from these people in Chicago. Our genetic testing will show them how their ancestors traveled the world to reach this destination. 150,000 years ago, the world was in the grip of an ice age. The ice caps have advanced. Sea levels dropped 400 feet. North Africa is a vast desert with small islands of green. On these islands are tiny groups of people. These are the first modern humans, recognizably like us today in physique, intellect, and abilities. We are the same people they were. The brain that first thought of chipping stone tools also took us into space. They are hunter-gatherers living in widely scattered groups, roaming each year over great distances, sheltering where they can, gathering seeds and fruit. 150,000 years ago, hunting was the key to survival. It explains much about the way the human race developed. Hunting needs careful thought and planning. It needed cooperation that demanded enhanced intelligence and communication skills. Genetic tracking is beginning to unlock more secrets than we ever believed possible. In just 7,000 generations, modern humans have left Africa and penetrated every corner of the globe. And through the unbroken genetic thread binding us to our past, we can begin to understand why it happened. Archaeologists can tell us in astonishing detail how modern humans lived. But to understand who we are and where we come from, we must look at our genetic heritage. Eve, the woman from whom we all descend, was not the only woman living at the time, or even the most fertile, but her mitochondrial genes were the most successful and the only ones to survive. Everyone alive today can trace a common ancestral line back to this one woman through a unique part of our DNA, mitochondrial DNA. DNA, the blueprint of life, is our own molecular pin code and uniquely identifies each of us. Mitochondria are tiny structures found inside nearly all human cells. It is separate from the normal chromosomal DNA that dictates our height or the color of our eyes. Men inherit it from their mother, but they can't pass it on. In women, it carries on from mother to daughter, down the endless generation almost unchanged. And this is how we can trace our way back to our genetic Eve and her daughters. So written within it is the history of the world's women, and therefore the human race. Professor Rebecca Kahn was the pioneering scientist who uncovered the first all-important clue.
I started working on human mitochondrial DNA so that I would have some kind of view that was objective, that would help me understand and help other people understand how humans around the world were related.
With this new science, she could. Harmless mutation happens all the time in some part of the mitochondrial DNA, leaving minute markers at every change. These markers are like barcodes and can be read in the same way. Khan and her team discovered the changes happen at a fairly constant rate. They found the groups with the earliest markers were the Africans living inside Africa and wondered if they might be the oldest people in the world.
I was very excited when I first started to get evidence, and it was so counterintuitive. I'd put 20 Europeans and 20 African Americans on a sheet of X-ray film, and every African American showed differences, and all the Europeans looked the same. As we got more samples from different areas, I realized that it was a difference in the pattern, and that this whole new type of evidence based on mitochondria was going to change the way we thought about modern humans.
In 1987, Khan and her colleagues published a paper showing for the first time that the markers stretched back to Africa, showing quite clearly that this was the birthplace of the human race. New Guinean tribesman, Parisian bartender, American teacher, Polynesian farmer, all were improbable relatives linked through one black woman 150,000 years ago. Their findings caused a sensation.
The responses of people were sort of amazing. The public was genuinely interested in certain aspects of it, but there was a tendency to misinterpret the data because of the terminology used to describe this woman, African Eve. And people thought it meant the biblical Eve, the single woman in the Judeo-Christian Bible, the wife of Adam.
Her work is rewriting human history. Through it, we now know the first mutations took place in Africa, maybe 150,000 years ago, and belonged to our genetic Eve. Professor Christopher Stringer, Britain's leading paleoanthropologist, was involved in the dating of the earliest modern human skulls.
This skull is as close as we can get to what the face of mitochondrial Eve would have looked like. It's a very complete skull found in sediments in a cave dating from about 120,000 years ago. And we can see here that it's a modern human. We've got a high rounded vault to the skull, a face that's tucked in under the cranial vault.
And this is what she looked like. Using forensic reconstruction techniques, muscle and flesh have been added to the skull and provide us with the very first glimpse of how our genetic mother might have looked 150,000 years ago. Modern humans made many attempts to make the long trek out of Africa, settling in different parts of the old world, but they did not survive. Climatic records indicate a brief but devastating global freeze-up at the time that turned the whole Middle East into extreme desert. Trapped in the northern corridor by the Sahara, there was no return and few places to take refuge. Neither they nor any of their lines survived. They would die in severe drought about 110,000 years ago. Their bones were discovered in Kafse caves near Nazareth in Galilee in 1933. 13 fragile skeletons, one a woman, a tiny baby at her feet. When these bones were first uncovered, they were the oldest complete modern human skeletons ever found.
The numerous skeletons that have been found in caves in Israel at the sites of Kafse and Shgul show us that there were modern humans outside of Africa over 100,000 years ago. Those modern humans may well have gone up the Nile corridor through Sinai and into the Middle East, but it doesn't look like they went any further. In a sense, they were a dead end.
It would be 40,000 years before they would try again. 80,000 years ago, the world was cooling down again. Once again, the ice caps were advancing, drying out the lands. Life became much harder. As Africa dried up, so did the drinking water. Ocean records show sea levels dropping dramatically as the world's water became locked in ice. As the game spread north, our hunter-gatherers were forced to become fishermen and beachcombers. This is our new Eve, our new family. Direct descendants of the daughters of original genetic Eve now living on the coast, surviving on the harvest of the sea. Our entire survival has always been at the mercy of the climate. When times were good, we could spread out. A bigger range meant more food. But the Ice Age froze the world, and the deserts closed in, forcing our groups into smaller territories, huddled against the coast. Their beachcombing diet consisted of fish, scallops, oysters, and clams. But the Red Sea became much saltier, making fishing and beachcombing more difficult. Until recently, there was little evidence our ancestors actually occupied the coastal areas of East Africa or exploited near-shore marine resources. This is Sifi Berhade, a geologist. In 1999, he was part of an international expedition looking for evidence of modern human occupation in Eritrea. In the Gulf of Zulu on the Red Sea, they stumbled on a remarkable discovery of stone tools embedded in an ancient fossilized coral reef. The reef was dated 125,000 years old. This is the world's first recorded oyster bar, 6.5 kilometers long and 15 meters above the current sea levels. It's the oldest evidence of beachcombing anywhere in the world. Buried in it are human tools, along with fossilized oyster, clam, and scallop shells. It provides absolutely clear evidence that our ancestors were exploiting the sea.
This is the unit where we have interstratified layer of big oyster and morass shells at the base. And they are quite horizontal. And this was a platform where modern man used to be walking and dumping their stone tools and some of the shells they were eating. There's this hand axe with a sharp end, and some of the shells that have been shed from this interstratified layer, and they've been using this for breaking the shells and eating it. And then when they were finished with it, they would sort of dump the handaks and also a shell and walk to the next site. But the most important thing, it's not this, because you cannot date it. It's what you find in situ, which makes it very, very important. If you see, this one is an obsidian tool that had been used to smash some of these oyster beds that you see. You don't see both completely enclosed, but have been smashed, and the goodies have been eaten. And these are some of those very important stone tools that have been discovered. This is the place, the first place where beachcombing for marine resources have been documented worldwide and verified.
These shell remains are also a vital clue to the reasons why our ancestors made the long walk out of Africa. On a constant diet of seafood, many more children would have survived. But the increase in numbers would make the demand for food even more desperate. Camps like this one would have numbered just a few hundred. At one time, there were only about 10,000 modern humans alive in the whole world. We were as endangered a species as the great apes are today. When the beachcombing and spearfishing failed to support them, they no longer had a choice. If they were to survive, they had to move. Across the Red Sea, freak monsoon conditions were watering the green, inviting hills of the Yemen. Scientists have always thought our ancestors migrated from Africa many times, group after group, and it was believed they always went north via Egypt and modern Israel. But the DNA trail tells a different story. Professor Stephen Oppenheimer is one of the world's foremost authorities on current genetic research into DNA tracking. By putting together the genetic tree with prehistoric weather patterns, he's one of the first to come up with the extraordinary idea that our ancestors came out of Africa by a single southern route.
This beach is on the west coast of the Red Sea, the African side. Over on the other side, we can see the mountains of the Yemen. I believe this is where our ancestors crossed on the first stage of their journey to the rest of the world. These straits are known locally to fishermen as the Gates of Grief because of the terrible, fierce currents crossing. But 80,000 years ago, the sea level was 150 foot further down. As a result, a number of islands and reefs appeared, which allowed our ancestors to cross, as it were, on stepping stones over to the Yemen.
Driven by hunger, shrinking habitat, and maybe the first stirrings of the restless human curiosity about the land ahead, our precious group of modern humans prepared to move.
There are two routes out of Africa. The north of the Red Sea, across the Suez and into the Middle East, and here in the south, across the Gates of Grief, into the Yemen, and on through the South Arabian coast to India. Both routes are possible, but to get through to the north, our ancestors would have had to have crossed the Sahara Desert. And at the time, it was even drier than it is today. Here in the south, all they had to do was to cross this short stretch of water, only 10 miles across, to the Yemen. So this was a region they could go to with confidence. I believe the most important journey the human race ever took started here on this beach 80,000 years ago.
one small group of people, one exodus, the single most important event in the population of the world. This is no single trudge across the sandbanks. This was an epic struggle to stay alive, not just for themselves, but the rest of mankind. Those who survived the crossing, who didn't succumb to the dangers of the gates of grief, came to a virgin land. This is the new frontier and the beginning of the rest of the world.
The Yemen beaches were on the edge of an almost empty world. Our group were the first modern humans, the first of their kind outside Africa, surviving in this place at that time. This group was on their own at the edge of the new world. Life would have been a bit better for our migrants across into the Yemen. For a start, the beachcombing in the Gulf of Aden would have been a lot better than on the Red Sea.
Unlike the parched, salty beaches they had left, the Yemen was green and fertile, full of fresh water, game, and shady oases, safe haven for a family to settle.
They were probably a small group, maybe maximum about 250 persons. They would have been scattered around in family units of 5 to 20, but networking with the other groups in the population. Anything less than about 200 would not have been viable. They would not have been able to cope with epidemics of disease or famine.
We know Eve and her daughters were among the survivors because from them are descended everyone in the world outside Africa. The new science of tracking is a breakthrough. Using the single unbroken mitochondrial genetic line, scientists constructed a vast family tree that shows that once outside of Africa, our ancestors split up, some going north and west, some going east and south. Once they had left Africa and the Yemen, they went their separate ways, never to meet again.
When the group first arrived here, they would have had a selection of African lines. A group of 250 people may have had at least 5 or 6 different lines. But over 1,000 years, if this population stayed isolated, gradually those lines would have reduced and reduced. The total number of the population would have stayed the same. It's rather like a Welsh village, hill village, or a village in Italy, where after a number of generations, everybody gets to have the same surname. This process of reduction of lines is called drift, and it happens in all small, isolated communities.
The smaller and more isolated a group is, the faster the mitochondrial DNA line comes down to one. Not to one person, or even to one group, but one mitochondrial DNA line. Some women have no daughters. Some daughters don't survive. So in the end, only one line is left. Totally isolated, they could breed only amongst themselves. The genetic math shows it would take about 1,000 years for the mitochondrial line to be reduced to one. One genetic lineage shared by all non-African people everywhere throughout history. It's this single line that convinces Stephen Oppenheimer he is right about our ancestry.
I think the implications of the single exodus from Africa are enormous. For a start, there's a simple observation that Australians, New Guineans, Southeast Asians, Chinese, Native Americans, Europeans and Indians all come from the same small group. Means that this small group in the last 80,000 years has diversified enormously into completely physically different populations in different parts of the world that have adapted physically and culturally to the new environments that they've found and they've explored.
In the Gulf, Eve and our out-of-Africa families stayed put, waiting until the climate changes allowed them to move. Their descendants would be the people of the Middle East, spreading north into Europe 40,000 years later and founding the vibrant cosmopolitan cities we know today. Others would continue past the Gulf, moving east, beachcombing their way along the coast of the Indian Ocean, looking for warmer, gentle places to stop. Within 6,000 years of reaching the Yemen beaches, our ancestors would eat their way to Malaysia. 6,000 miles from Africa, our family are deep in the tropical rainforests of Southeast Asia. These are the descendants of Eve, hunting in the jungles of Malaya. Roaming in small bands, staying in one place long enough to reap the harvest of wildlife and then moving on. Their bodies are beginning to adapt to the rainforest conditions. Away from the harsh African sun, their skins become lighter, their stature reduced by lack of meat. Like hunter-gatherers in the jungle today, they live on fish, rats, squirrel, and lizards. On canopy game, fruits, and roots. They disguise and camouflage themselves to conform to the foliage and imitate animal calls to deceive their quarry. Life in the forest is shared with venomous snakes, cobras, pythons, and predatory animals. Between leaving Africa and arriving in Australia, there's no clear archaeological evidence of the presence of modern humans or their amazing migration. No skulls, no skeletons or graves. Sea levels were 160 feet lower, so whatever our family left behind on their coastal journeys have been reclaimed by the sea. The genetic trail is all we have. It's not until we reach Malaysia that new evidence begins to fill in the gaps. The Great Toba eruption in Sumatra 74,000 years ago was the single biggest explosion in the last 2 million years. The plume was 25 miles high and plunged much of the world into 6 dark years of volcanic winter. Northern Malaysia, India, and the Middle East were covered in a deadly shroud of thick volcanic ash. The Great Toba explosion, the most destructive event in the last 2 million years, provides positive clues about our family's journey. These are the Semang people, shy hunter-gatherers of the interior jungles in the Lake Peninsula. Much darker than the other Malaysian people who surround them, they are part of the Orang Asli group. Stephen Oppenheimer thinks they could be the surviving remnant of our out-of-Africa family that came through here 74,000 years ago.
If our ancestors had passed this way on their route from Africa to Australia and New Guinea, it's likely they would have left a genetic trace. And we know from previous surveys that the Orang Asli, as a group of tribes in the Malay Peninsula of Malaysia, are among the oldest people in this region. And the Semang are probably the oldest of all.
Stephen Oppenheimer has come to this remote Semang village to collect swab samples of DNA. These, he hopes, will confirm his idea.
Nama Farida. If my theory is correct, that they left Africa 80,000 years ago, they would have had to have traveled 6,000 miles to get here in 6,000 years in order to be here at the time of the Great Toba explosion. That means about a mile a year, which is entirely feasible for that sort of nomadic lifestyle of moving down the coast. But to determine whether or not they belong to that first out-of-Africa group, we need to look at their genetic lines. And in particular, their mitochondrial DNA. Those will tell us whether or not they come straight out of the two daughters of Eve that originated just outside Africa. If they have their own unique lines, that suggests they've been isolated since that time, 70 or 80,000 years ago, and that they have developed completely on their own. If, on the other hand, we might even find that their lines are ancestral to people further down the line, like the Australians or the New Guineans. Again, our genetic tracing will help us to see whether or not that's the case.
The genetic survey may prove the Semang are an ancient race, but it can't tell us exactly when they were here. We have to look for other evidence to validate the theory. These crude tools were found in a wooded valley called Kota Tampan near Penang. There are other sites nearby with the same sort of tools. What makes these so particularly interesting is they are embedded in a fall of Toba ash dated 74,000 years ago. Professor Zoraina Majid was looking for an ancient river terrace when she stumbled upon the Kota Tampan site. What Professor Majid had actually found was a stone tool workshop, which could be pinpointed to 74,000 years ago.
The ash covered the working floor. That ash has been dated to 74,000 years ago. This is a hammer stone that they used, and you can see that it's very comfortable to hold it in the hand, and this is the edge that was used. This is a chopper, a type that's seen in a lot of Asia and Southeast Asia. What they were after was the edge angle. The edge angle had to be right, and the edge had to be sharp. This was used for heavy-duty work. It's heavy, it's got a sharp edge, probably for felling trees.
Majid is convinced that they were left by modern man.
Kota Tampan also revealed man who had a complex mind. His stone tool technology revealed a rational, systematic and organized mind, the mind of Homo sapiens.
These Kota Tampan tools are crucial for the dating of modern man's presence in Southeast Asia. They're the first tangible evidence we have of the whole journey from Africa to Australia. Combined with Stephen Oppenheimer's genetic tests, they could be real proof of our ancient migration. has he found the evidence he needs? For the first time, archaeology and genetics gives us the same answer at this crucial point in our journey. Now we can be sure that our ancestors came this way 74,000 years ago.
The results are very exciting. The Orang Asli, the Semang group here, have their own unique genetic lines which suggest that they may have been in that first beachcombing trip 75,000 years ago. They have their own unique lines coming out of the first two daughters of Eve outside Africa. And they trace right back there and are not shared with anyone else in Southeast Asia or in East Asia.
At that time, the sea levels were 160 feet lower. Most of the islands of Southeast Asia were joined together into the single landmass of the Sunda continent. The survivors of Toba's volcanic winter would take our genetic journey onto its next great move, the unknown continent of Australia. 100 miles of shark-infested seas separated them from the new land. This is the second great exodus in the migration of mankind across the world. But this time, there are no green hills in the Yemen to give them the comfort of a safe arrival. Why did they risk all on such a dangerous venture, not even knowing if they would make landfall at the end? Some scientists believe they were blown off course and arrived in the unknown shore accidentally. But new clues from the genetic evidence says no. It shows Australian Aborigines have a number of genetic lines unique only to them, leading straight back to the first daughters of our new out-of-Africa Eve. So many lines carried by so many women arriving in such a short time suggests deliberate intention, not accidental raft wreck. The first group arrived 70,000 years ago. More followed over the next 5,000 years, all descendants of our out-of-Africa Eve. These were the first people to walk on this vast and empty continent. They would stay undisturbed for thousands of years. The Australia they entered was home to giant creatures, megafauna, 3-meter-high kangaroos and tortoises as big as cars. The cave of this vanished world has been dated to 61,000 years ago. But suddenly, 10,000 years later, this fantastical creature and all the other megafauna were extinct. The climate didn't alter. There are no huge kill sites indicating overhunting, but humans change the world wherever they are. This sudden extinction is evidence of their presence. It seems likely our ancestors destroyed the leafy habitat with fire, and the larger plant-eating animals simply died away. This dry lake bed is one of the places where the theory might fall apart, in spite of the matching of archaeology and genes back up on the trail in Malaysia. Mongo Man 3 When he was found, the earth around him was dated 62,000 years old. When the bones were tested for DNA, sensationally, the DNA did not match anyone anywhere in the world. To those who don't believe in the Outer Africa theory, this seems to be proof that modern humans had evolved at different times and at different places in the world into the people we are today. But other scientists like Professor Chris Stringer are doubtful.
Now, there are many problems in extracting DNA, particularly from a skeleton 60,000 years old. So, firstly, it may be that the DNA that's been picked up is contamination. We're not sure of that. But even if it's genuine DNA, other analyses have shown that, in fact, it can quite reasonably be derived from an out-of-Africa ancestor, just as the rest of us can. So in my view, the Mungo evidence, both from the bones and from the DNA, if it's genuine, still supports a recent African origin for our species.
Australian Aborigines are an ancient people, but they no longer look like their ancestors who arrived all those thousands of years ago. Their bodies have adapted, retaining all those characteristics needed to survive as hunter-gatherers in the harsh desert environment. Under the skin, we are all very much alike. Our DNA shows that we come from one very small gene pool.
If we look at the DNA of all of us, Australians, Africans, Europeans, we find that comparing the mitochondrial DNA of all of us, we show less variation. Even though there are billions of us and we're spread over the whole world, we show less variation in our mitochondrial DNA than we would find in, say, a small group of chimpanzees or orangutans or gorillas. Those apes show more variation, even in their small groups, than the entire human race shows.
But if all the people from around the world descend from such a small gene pool, why do we all look so completely different? Natural selection and adaptation to the environment are the most important factors. Sexual selection is crucial. Climate dictates body shape. The colder the environment, the shorter and more stocky you become to retain heat. Height relates to diet. The most obvious and striking difference is color. And that's also a part of our genetic inheritance. Nina Jablonski, a leading scientist looking at the evolution of skin color, was working on the importance of folic acid in fetal development when she stumbled by chance on the answer.
I started doing research on the evolution of skin color after preparing a lecture for a class over 10 years ago. It was interesting, preparing for the class, I realized that there was very little that was known about the evolution of skin color, and what was known wasn't very cogent. I discovered an interesting paper when I was preparing that lecture that showed that there was an interesting and important relationship between ultraviolet radiation and a very important biomolecule called folate.
Folic acid is crucial for embryonic development, and too much ultraviolet radiation from the sun destroys it. So our ancestors in tropical Africa needed to be dark to protect their survival. But too little ultraviolet prevents the formation of vitamin D, causing rickets, which can kill. So as they migrated to the sunless north, they had to grow paler to survive. She has uncovered a very simple evolutionary equation.
When we look at the pattern of skin pigmentation among indigenous peoples today, we see very dark people in equatorial regions with high UV and significantly lighter people as we get toward the poles. And it turns out that melanin, the natural sunscreen, is phenomenally good at screening out ultraviolet radiation. To some extent, it's too good. And in order for us to be able to make enough vitamin D in our skin, we have to reduce the amount of melanin that exists in the skin. And so what we see in the course of our species history, as we've moved from an area of high UV to areas of lower UV, our skin has become more and more depigmented.
She calculates that it takes about 20,000 years to turn from black to white. All that distinguishes color in people are tiny genetic differences laid down long ago. During the epic beachcombing migration from Africa to Australia, our family left behind colonies. One group made their way up through Asia and to China and beyond. Another went from North India past the Himalayas onto the vast Asian steppes, and another stayed in the Arabian Gulf. Large freshwater lakes allowed our out-of-Africa families to colonize these pockets of lush vegetation surrounded by desert. Continuous occupation occurred here for more than 30,000 years, their bones and artifacts becoming submerged as sea levels rose. About 50,000 years ago, genetic lines began for the first time to spread north into Europe. But the timing has always been a puzzle. If modern humans are able to reach Australia as early as 70,000 years ago, why did they not arrive in Europe until 50,000 years ago? It is a much shorter journey. Stephen Oppenheimer thinks he has the answer.
I think the answer to this question is that they were stuck. They were not able to get up to the Near East, to Israel and the Lebanon, because there was a great desert in the way. That desert was the Saudi Arabian desert and the Libyan desert. And between 80,000 and 50,000 years ago, this was completely impenetrable. The climate was so dry that the Fertile Crescent, the route from the Gulf into Lebanon and Israel and Europe, was closed. Then, 50,000 years ago, there was a sudden improvement of the climate.
After centuries of domination by the desert, the rains came. Monsoon rainfall increased in Arabia and India, and the Fertile Crescent opened up. Rivers swelled and game spread north. Our families and genetic lines followed them. Walked north from the Persian Gulf, deep into the Fertile Crescent, following the rivers between the Zagros Mountains and the Syrian desert. The idea that Europeans came in through North Africa is very firmly fixed. But Stephen Oppenheimer's evidence does not support this.
Genetic evidence completely does not support it. There's no evidence of the early branches. And in fact, only one of the main branches that people the world is found in the European region. Now, of course, that does upset a lot of fixed views about the origins of the Europeans, and forces us to consider the fact that Europeans were part of the same single family that came out of Africa through the southern route. This new genetic evidence will rewrite European prehistory.
And Levant, a land that lay between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, two great rivers flowing from the highlands of Turkey in the north down to the Gulf. We have taken the first steps to the great civilizations that would develop writing, warfare, and found the great empires, all from one direct genetic route back to our out-of-Africa migration. During this time, there was also an explosion of new technology. The stone tools and spears modern humans manufactured became even lighter and more effective. The Zagros Mountains were full of game, and good hunting makes stability. Likewise, they began to establish the fixed geography of burial grounds and sacred places. In Kasr-e-Kil in the Lebanon, the burial of a 12-year-old modern child has been found, dated 44,000 years ago. His skull is broken, his body tucked gently in the shelter in the overhanging rock. Families spread quickly to the Mediterranean, south along the coast of Syria and to North Africa, up through Turkey, across the Balkans and into Europe. This is our new family, direct descendants of our marshland Arabs in the Gulf, entering the unknown territories of Germany. But the land they are entering is not empty. Others...
This is the cutting edge. We're going to come forward to...
But there before them, Neanderthals had been the masters of Europe for over 250,000 years. In 1856, in the Neander Valley in Germany.
Delta Supply. Yes, back to the real Eve.
The Neanderthals are often thought to be dim-witted brutes, but they certainly weren't. They were fully human. Their brains were as large as ours. I think the Neanderthals are a different species from us, but they're a closely related species, a sibling species, one that had common ancestors with us maybe only 500,000 years ago. So on that basis, the Neanderthals are fully human. They're 10 times closer to us than chimpanzees are.
If they're interbred with modern humans, their genes have died out. There's no trace of their presence in our world. Within 10,000 years, the Neanderthals were extinct. Modern humans would wipe out all trace of their rivals and fill the space left behind. The reason for their disappearance is not clear. They lived alongside modern man for thousands of years, but in the end, Neanderthals probably couldn't adapt fast enough to the new world and their new resourceful rivals. Neanderthals used their bodies to mediate with nature. Modern humans use their brains. Into the void moved waves of modern humans from the Middle East and Russia, spreading throughout Europe. Scientists think that with these waves came 4 mitochondrial DNA lineages, 4 granddaughters of our out-of-Africa Eve. They arrived between 45,000 and 10,000 years ago, and most of modern Europeans can trace their lineage back to them. Neanderthal technology had hardly changed for over 200,000 years. As soon as modern humans arrived, a whole range of different tools suddenly appeared, as well as ornamentations. Archaeologists regard these ornaments as a defining mark of modern humans and the first interest in ornament in the 5 million years of evolution.
Here, one of the most famous of these statuettes from the Czech Republic, made in baked clay and about 27,000 years old, from a site called Dolní Věstonice. A beautiful little piece of work. Some of them are certainly covered with ochre, some of them are certainly polished from handling perhaps over many generations. So these were treasured, valued objects, and obviously had ritual and symbolic significance for these people, perhaps religious significance. And here, one of the most delicate pieces of art. This is carved from mammoth ivory, which is a really difficult material to work. And this is from the French site of Brest-en-Puy. It's a beautiful representation of the head of what seems to be a woman, with, again, either an elaborate hairstyle or perhaps a woven hat. And this is a really delicate, beautiful piece of work. It's difficult to tell from these representations whether they are representations of real people or whether they're in some way idealized to represent some sort of ideal of beauty. In some cases, I think the detail is enough to suggest that these are based on real people. Another thing that we find with these modern people in Europe is the arrival of evidence of sewn clothing. And here's one of the most direct bits of evidence, the fact that we have a bone needle here. So these people were sewing cloth, sewing skins, with evidence that they were even weaving fabrics. And so this is another level of complexity. It would have given them a much greater range of adaptations to climate, for example, and of course much greater opportunities for personal expression, for things like fashion to develop through time. And we see this also in some of the burials, that people are being buried with garments which in some cases are covered with thousands of beads made from mammoth ivory. And each of those beads represented hours and hours of work. So we have evidence here of a real richness and complexity of life that we don't find with the Neanderthals. I've got here an engraving of a mammoth on a piece of mammoth tusk from a French site that's about 15,000 years old. But these people, these early modern people, the Cro-Magnons, didn't just carve on pieces of bone and tusk. They also sculpted, they engraved, they made models in clay. And of course they painted on the walls of their caves. And this art goes back at least to 35,000 years ago. They depicted a great variety of things, often the animals they were hunting. In some cases dangerous animals such as lions or woolly rhinoceros. In some cases we can't even recognize what creatures are represented. The creatures seem to be magical symbols, imaginary creatures. And it's possible that some of this art was being used in ceremonies, in initiation rites. Possibly even some of it was created in a trance-like state, linked in with shamanism, with magic.
Modern humans have come as far as we could come on the continent of Europe. Behind us, we have left clear genetic footprints leading back to the One Out of Africa movement 80,000 years ago. 10,000 miles away on the other side of the globe, and 6,000 years later, the invasion of the New World would begin. The world was cooling down again as the new ice age began. Modern humans have found one place to settle. Our genetic lines now spread in all directions from the one southern out of Africa route. And the last remaining frontier of America now has us trekking north from India and Southeast Asia and China, and east from the Mongol steppes in Siberia, converging at the Bering Straits, the fragile strip of land joining Asia with America. For a long time, archaeologists insist no one had reached America before 15,000 years ago. But new information from the DNA genetic trail has our American ancestors crossing the Beringia land bridge from Asia 25 to 20,000 years ago. This is the last great journey to populate the world, and the genetic lines all lead to one goal. These are the first Americans. 25,000 years ago, the world was moving into one of the worst ice ages we'd ever have to endure. In places, the ice was 3 miles thick. But as the ice closes in, this is the last possible moment before it shuts off the land route from the Bering Straits into Alaska and the rest of North America. It would be another 8,000 years before it would open up again.
There
reason why we know that these first Native Americans got in about 20,000 years ago is the fact that we know which founding types they brought with them, which mitochondrial founding types they brought with them from Asia. We have types in Asia which are similar to American types, and therefore we know the ones that actually came into America as opposed to those which derived since the arrival in America. Now, on average, the founders in America have accumulated one mutation. And since we know the mutation rate for our genetic system, the mitochondria, is one mutation every 20,000 years, we know that these founder types have been evolving in America for 20,000 years, and that is when they must have arrived.
In North America, the Great Laurentian ice sheet smothered the Central Plains, destroying everything in its path, forcing our migrants down the West Coast into South America. As the ice retreated, we could spread back into the liberated land. There's evidence of a settlement at a rock shelter on the Ohio River in Pennsylvania called Meadowcroft.
Meadowcroft is very important here to the American story because it is dated at about 16,000 uncalibrated radiocarbon years before today, and is therefore one of the earliest Native American sites to be credited by archaeologists. And this ties in wonderfully with our genetic estimates, because they must have come in several thousand years before that in order to get down to Meadowcroft.
Dr. James Adelagio led the team of scientists who excavated the shelter.
When we originally encountered it, we assumed it would not contain any cultural material whatsoever. But as it turned out, there were an assortment of artifacts and other indications of a human presence several thousands of years previous to what the estimate for the maximum age for the peopling of the New World was. Scattered across this surface and deeper occupation surfaces in and around these fireplaces are a series of artifacts, among the more notable of which are blade core fragments like this, and the blades that have been struck from these cores. What's unique about these items is that not only are they not manufactured for the most part by later Paleo-Indian groups in the Americas, but they bear a striking resemblance to blade cores from northern China that are 28 or 29,000 years old. In fact, casts of these materials could be lost in collections from North China, and you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. What the evidence from Meadowcroft suggests to us is, along with data from an emerging series of sites elsewhere in North America, is that there was no single migration of human beings to the New World, as was recently postulated in the last 2 decades, but instead a series of pulses or emanations.
So multiple entries are now established as the pattern for American migration. These earliest settlers carried many different genetic lines. They came from Siberia, China, Central Asia, as far south as Malaysia and Japan. In 1996, a skeleton known as Kennewick Man was discovered along the Columbia River in Washington State. When it was brought to Jim Chatters, the forensic anthropologist, he first believed the remains were those of a 19th century pioneer. He was astonished when radiocarbon dating revealed it to be 9,500 years old. It was the oldest skeleton ever found in North America. But what really intrigued Chatters was that despite his age, Kennewick Man did not resemble modern Native Americans. His skull was Caucasoid, not Mongoloid, and reconstruction of his face showed distinct similarities with the Ainu, who lived in northern Japan.
Kennewick Man was an extremely beaten up individual. He had multiple broken ribs. He had an injured left arm. He had some injury to his skull. He had some arthritis in his neck, his knees, his elbows. Just generally been around the block a few times. But what was most distinctive about him, the most interesting injury, I guess, from a forensic standpoint, is that he had a spear point embedded in his pelvis. In fact, that's what caused us to radiocarbon date the bones. All that can be seen is a little ovoid window in each side of the bone. But when we CAT scan it, we can see that there's a 2-inch long, 1-inch wide, 1/4-inch thick serrated edge blade in there. Now, what's interesting about this spear point is that it's of a style that we only see after this man's death in eastern Washington. We can see that style moving down the coast of British Columbia into Washington around 10,000 years ago and on to 9,000 years ago. That's radiocarbon years. The people who bring this spear point, who are the ones that we find with this style of spear point a short distance later in time, are very similar to modern American Indians. You could lose them in a crowd easily of American Indian skulls. So what it looks like is we have a new population arriving with Northeast Siberian characteristics that is beginning to replace the earlier arriving immigrants. Now what this suggests in a broader way is that there was some sort of conflict going on. And the fact that it occurs at the time of the new arriving populations, the fact that Kennewick man looks different from the new arriving populations, both suggest that it's a competition over territory that's at issue. Now, from the angle of entry, from the velocity of entry, it's fairly clear that this spear was coming directly at him and that he could see it coming.
Professor Chavez believed that Kennewick man died by hypothermia and drowning. Since the death of Kennewick man, modern human populations have swelled from thousands to millions. We have advanced from primitive hunter-gatherers to farmers and traders, townspeople and city folk, and from tribal domains to empires. In 5,000 generations, we have arrived in the modern world we know today. Since the 1980s, DNA samples have been taken from thousands of people all over the world, from Alaska to New Zealand, from the Inuit to Icelanders. By analyzing them, scientists can trace similarities between personal pin codes and see which people are most closely related. All individuals can check their mitochondrial DNA and trace the routes their ancestors took in their journey around the world, from Africa to every corner of the globe. In Chicago, we sampled 5 people who are tracing their mitochondrial tree. After analyzing their DNA swabs, scientists discovered a remarkable connection between a Greek and a Native American.
Angela, your group came out in the same...
Angela Tracus is a Greek who came to the United States from Europe. Leonard Malatari is a Native American, full-blooded Cree. They are both from the same small and rare branch of our family tree and share a common ancestor 30,000 years ago, maybe in southern Siberia. As modern humans populated the empty world after leaving Africa, some went north to central Russia. There a daughter was born, carrying a new marker, X. Her children separated, some going west into Europe and some east from Siberia and on into America. Tracus and Malatari arrived in America from opposite ends of the earth and now meet for the first time in Chicago. Their first family reunion in 30,000 years of our evolutionary history.
It kind of blows, it just blows me away.
Well, I think it's really exciting that we all come from the same line, because maybe then people will forget about putting so much emphasis on differences and talking about the common person, and then maybe that'll help people be a little bit more tolerant and loving, and maybe that'll progress in maybe more of a relevant manner than just science, maybe just about humanity in general. So I think that's very relevant today.
Yeah, Danny Glover narrating the real Eve, tracing our ancestors out of Africa. Something to ponder on, man. May I tell you? Something to ponder on. Believe you me, something to ponder on. The eclectic sound of the cutting edge, man, may I tell you. Yes, experimenting African music. So we give you the real Eve. As we tell you, said before, say it wasn't about the Eve in the Bible, because we are talking about like 70,000 years. The Eve in the Bible, according to the Bible, is only 6,000 years old. You know, I don't know. I have a very scientific mind, I must say. And if a man can show your DNA, tracing it back to all different places, even to Africa, and him can show you how old bones are and rocks, how old we have the power, we have the technology, if he can tell you how old a rock is or a tree is. Yeah, I mean, when you go to California, them show you how old the tree is by some of the oak tree them where they were up at the top in a not going to Seattle there. Them show you the ring, the amount of ring on the trunk. When you cut the tree, the amount of ring in there tell you the age of the tree. Yes. So man have the knowledge and the technology to do that. But if man have the knowledge and technology to do that, why would I want to believe that the first human beings on the earth appeared 6,000 years ago? Why would I want to believe that? Why would I want to believe that the earth is, according to what them say, well, I could say it's 6,006 days, 7 days. Why would I want to believe that? What is the evidence and the proof that what it says go like that? How can you prove that? Because there's nowhere else that this is said more than in the book. We have to wake up and live. Wake up and understand that there's things that we were not privy to. But now we are privy to it because we have advanced in a whole heap of aspect of human endeavors. There are a lot of things that we say couldn't it happen before, but now we see it happen normally on a daily basis. Yeah, we see man take 300 people and put in a metal thing and carry it go up in the air. And we did it in the few hours and call it plane. Hours we see people inside, right? There was a time when his own canoes could have go up on the water them and lick a boat with no more than 10, 20 people. Now we see ships with all 5,000, 6,000 people. I travel for days upon the water, the sea. Tell a man that 300 years ago, 400 years ago, 1,000 years ago, say you have a ship that can carry 10,000 people one time, as far as you want to go up on any water. It sound like some fiction, some supernatural, superstitious thinking. But we know that a whole heap of the things them that them tell we go so. And people internalize it and take it outside a culture and bring it to religion. Because that is really what happens. Is trying to figure out certain things in your cultural expression and can't figure it out through scientific explanation. People give it over to supernatural thinking and superstition it breeds to. Because most people who is religious is very superstitious. They're them easily frightened, whether have too much light or too much dark. Most religious people can't stay in the dark. And most people, religious people, is scared of too much light. And the two of them are balanced one another. Out of darkness come the light. And darkness is not an absence of light. You understand? Darkness is not an absence of light. You understand? So what we want is knowledge and understanding of the things that is surrounding us and how them work. How them work. And more we get to find out how things work because of man's knowledge increasing. And them use what them know today to figure out what is going to happen or what is him figuring out tomorrow. Them use today knowledge to work out tomorrow things. And some people is scared of knowledge. Some people prefer to stay in them superstitious nature. Yes, superstitious nature. That's why we have our brains. Our brains function as a sponge. And then it let out things like a hose. We need to stop afraid of knowledge, man. And we need to challenge belief systems. Even ours. Even our system. Our belief system. Right across the board. And we don't want to challenge our belief system and go deeper into superstition. Superstition make you develop fear. Yes, people who are suspicious, superstitious. People who are suspicious. Why I keep suspicious? Say it's suspicious. People who is superstitious develop more fear than a normal person. Yeah, man. Because that's what superstitious do. Superstition strive off of fear. That is what it does. You're afraid of the dark. You're afraid to stay in a room by yourself. You know, you're afraid of something behind you because you can't turn around. Fear. You're afraid of what lies ahead and what lies beneath and what lies above. Superstition. And that is what happened in a whole heap of paper cases when human beings start to control other human beings. When human beings start to control other human beings, them do it based upon a lack of knowledge. And lack of knowledge mean mystery. Mystery, them call it mystery. Mystery is because you don't understand how the thing work. Anything that you don't understand, you say it is a mystery. So a mystery, because of lack of knowledge of how the thing happen, how the thing work, you start to develop ideas in your head to figure out and say, this is why it work and this is how it work. You don't have no knowledge and no foundation to say it. But you come to a conclusion because you are superstitious. And when you start to get superstitious, you start to deal in the supernatural. So much things lead into so much things. The supernatural means it is beyond the natural thoughts and thinking of human being. It gone above human thinking. And you who's a human being start to feel that there is something or someone that is penetrating your brains to tell you, say, even though I don't have no knowledge of this thing, and even though I don't understand it, I can use that nature, that is super nature, to say this is what it is. And then people develop a thing around it called religious belief. And religious belief now guide you more into the supernatural realms or the superstitious realms. And you become more fearful. You fear life and you fear death. Because fear is the hallmark of superstition that leads you to the supernatural. And you leave the supernatural, you leave the natural and get fed with the supernatural. And the supernatural is not real until you decide say it's real and make it start to control you rather than you control it. And we don't understand that. We don't understand that because we're upon a certain level. Some of us upon a certain little level. The least little thing we start to worry. You know, you start to feel a little pain. I put you say a man, obia yo. Somebody obia yo. Because yesterday did I walk, go down for you, go down at the road, so the man do something, so you say, him obia me. You get superstitious. And you start to fear the man. And you don't want to go down in your yard again. You get superstitious. And superstitious now bring what we call now, you start to look upon the man in a light where it's negative. So you start not trust him. All of these things superstition do. You start to believe say he's not a nice person. Even though you didn't know him for a long time. But through your foot swell up and you go down in your yard, you start to fret. And you start to tell people about him now. You start to become a soothsayer and a liar, bearing false witness. Because you never investigate why your foot swell up. If you really have diabetes, or if your blood flow kind of now go even or whatsoever. You need to drink more water. You need to do something that would help your foot to get better. But you become superstitious in nature and become controlled by a supernatural being that is you create it. You create that supernatural in your head. You create it. You don't want to walk late at night, not because of gunman, but because of duppy. The scene plays like a sound you hear outside. Instead of you figure out, say, I wonder if it's a dog running in my yard, or a man in my yard, or some bird or animal. You start to say, I wonder if I'm a granny dead 2,000 years ago. I say, maybe a master, you know. You know, master, I'm dead. I'm dream him last night, you know. I dream him last night. And you start to wonder if him a moving in the yard now. Superstitious. Fear. So you don't want to go outside. You wake up your man. Wake up, or you wake up your woman and say, wake up. I hear something outside, you know. And they might say, no, must the dog them, man. I said, no. Me smell it, man. It smell like my grandfather was dead. When me a little pick me, I him. What a thing. We are all controlled. All of us controlled by something or someone. And most of the time, the things them that control is of our own imagination. The things them that control sometimes. It is of our own imagination. We get scared. Very, very scared. Seriously scared. But who know? Who know? Because some people believe said this are going to happen, and some people believe said that not going to happen. You have people say Jamaica is a blessed country. And when them hear an earthquake and somewhere else, them say, but look how, or a hurricane, say, boy, the hurricane just passed over with, so look how it match up longly. So, Dominica, Jamaica is a blessed country. The term blessed have a meaning. Because when them say really, when them say blessed, is that this supernatural being is protecting Jamaica more than Dominica, or more than Haiti, we have an earthquake, or more than Dominica will get mashed up. Them say Jamaica is a blessed country. Oh my gosh, man. But when something lick it now, you hear them say, yeah, man. You see it? Too much gay people there, that's why. Too much gunman, you know, so the people them wicked. You know, so the crime get wicked. That's why the place shake. That's why the hurricane come and watch all of the banana them. Yes, last year it was a blessed place. Last year when it's not Jamaica get the hurricane and not Jamaica get the earthquake, you hear so Jamaica is a blessed place. You know, so much time hurricane come and it just gone past me. It's a blessed place. What will happen when the time when we look, you know, so much people turn Christian. How much people born again and go dip themselves in the water like water can wash with this. Rituals have no significance. But we make it significant. It's human being make these things significant. It don't have nothing to do with nothing. If you say when a man dip in the water, it make you change, your life change because him dipping in the water. You could have changed your life without dipping in the water. Dipping in the water is just a ritual. A ritual of meager significance, if not any significance. It don't have nothing to do with nothing. That is when men create, over a period of time, men create those things to make him feel like, say, him can go beyond him normal self. That is what it do. It make you feel like you go beyond your normal self. When a man say you're baptized. Then you see them give you a name, we call it Christian name. As you're born, them give you a name, you know. Them say your first name is your Christian name. That is weird. We get caught tonight. Everybody in Jamaica born. And when you go up with them say, upon the paper, your Christian name and your surname. I will get caught tonight because we have to write our first name. What is your Christian name? My Christian name is Tony or John. You never born Christian, you know. You never born Christian. You never born a Christian. Is your environment decides that you're a Christian? And you come decide that because you not think. So when a man say, what is your name? What is your Christian name? And you put on your first name, because that is what they make you do. You don't get integrated in the craziness. Until you come big now, you say, why am I not name? Yeah, them call me John Tom, but a matrix my name. Because you understand what matrix mean, and you say, matrix my name. And you give yourself a name now, you say, yes, you're all right. And you don't have no Christian name this so. Because when you say matrix, you're not going to say it's a Christian name that. You understand? Matrix, so you know, man. We go through the PSCs. Yeah, everybody have Christian name, and most of we are not Christian. Not most of we, but most of we never intend to be Christian. It was just we live in our society where everybody are Christian now. Them just bring you into that. But you go for your passport. Them ask you, what is your Christian name? You go for register, what is your Christian name? What is your mother Christian name? And my mother is not Christian. But you have to live with that. You have to live with it. Because if you go to that, say, I don't have no Christian name, you know. And name John. Them say, John, your first name or your last name? I said, no, John is my first name. Them say, then that not your Christian name. You think them easy? Them not make you think, you know. Them not make you think, because if you say if you start think, how the whole of we get Christian name and the whole of we are not Christian? From your born, you have a Christian name, you never born a Christian. And they make you grow up with it to the point where you don't ever challenge it, you know. You can't challenge it because you know. You go in the office, you go at the embassy, and them up on the paper, surname. And you know, them put the surname first, you know. Them always want you write on the surname first. Surname, Christian name. But me are a Christian. You understand? So what you do now? You just leave out a part there. But you can't leave it out. You can't leave it out. You can't leave it out. It's a compulsory thing. You can't leave it out. You can't go say, excuse me, sir, what must I put here? Them say, can't you read, sir? It says your Christian name. I say, but I don't have no Christian name, sir. Yeah, you don't have no Christian name. I have a name. I'm not a Christian. I don't have a Christian name, but you can't say that. You want to hear something wickeder? You want to hear something wickeder now? When you go a Roman Catholic church, they have a name when them christen you, them give you a church name after one of the saints them. Like if you go a Roman Catholic church and them are Christian, them give you a name like after one of the saints them, like Saint Valentine or Saint Alfonso. What I mean now? Yeah, Roman Catholic church. In the Roman Catholic church, when them are christening the baby, them give you a christening name. Different from your Christian name. And your surname. They don't have one, man. They have one, you know. They give you a christening name. Where father come and put this by your little water by your area, so when you're like a picnic and you say, all right, I'm going to sign it. This is your christening name. From Roman Catholic Church. I don't think say Pentecostal and them church do them thing there. We get caught and we don't think about it. No, we don't decide nothing. We don't decide nothing. With them decide so we have to come and work and don't come and work on. You know what I say? Don't come to work on Saturday. Because that is 7 days, 7 Sabbath day. But come to work on Monday. You understand? You can't go say, boy, Sabbath, Monday, my Sabbath. And you're not going to church Monday because you come here Saturday, nobody not there. And you're not get paid for that. You know, see? So you have to conform to the city, the six something. But it is good to figure it out. Because when you figure it out, you can know so well, this is your move and this is them for them move. But if you not figure out nothing, you're just like a zombie. It's a zombie. And most people, it's like most people go buy food and them have a whole heap of writing on the label, you know. Most Jamaican people don't read label. No, them not read label. Them no business, them just come take the, but the thing they on the label for a reason. How much calories, how much protein, how much this, that, 1 gram, this and that. All of them things that depend on the label. What in them? Dog, dodo, cat, piss, all of them things there. Nobody now know. You not see it. Because you just take the thing and say, send me a back like this, I just gone. I look pretty. Yeah, you know. Anyway, this is the stepping razor. Later, 2 o'clock. I said, this is, you see it, we're going on Thursday now. At 2 o'clock now for 2, you know. Where is it 2? Matrix in the house. Matrix all the New Year. I treat you, man. Because we have to talk about New Year now, you know. Peaceful. Peaceful. Okay. All right, sir. Well, I hope you continue in that vein since it's so you see it. Yeah. I hope when you say peaceful means that is good, you know. Yes, it good. And it don't mean peaceful Means say, boy, I appear piece things you have full up in your bag or something like piece of things you have full up in your bag. You understand? So, we just give thanks for hear that still. Yes. You understand? Yeah, man. So, here as we are say, we're gone, you know. We are trying to find a tune for go out with. Make we go out with it tune, yeah. Okay.